Welcome to Push to Be More. My name is Matt Edmondson. I am the host of the Push to Be More podcast. Welcome to August, ladies and gentlemen. August is a little bit different. We're going to explain why it's a little bit different in just a second. But first, let me welcome to the show the amazing, the talented, the super gifted, the all-round good egg, which is Sadaf Bainon, who is the show's producer. Sadaf, welcome to the show. Interesting having you on this side of the camera, not going to lie. How are we doing?
Hi, Matt. Thank you for having me on the show. And yes, it's fun
like I had a choice.
Yeah, like I had a choice. It's definitely easier being on this side of the camera than doing the production.
There's no responsibility really here. You just got to chat. Just got to talk.
Yeah, so this month, for the month of August, we're mixing things up a bit. A lot of people are probably soaking up the sun somewhere on their holidays instead of the regular office, being in the office. So we're going to cut down our lengthier episodes and we're going to bring you bite-sized content that is probably going to be perfect for you while you're out and about and relaxing on your holidays.
Absolutely. Because why not? Because it's fair to say, Sadaf, that if people are watching the video, they're going to go, well, Matt and Sadaf aren't together. Now, normally we do work together in the office, GCHQ. We do actually have a very nice podcast studio where we would normally record these conversations from when we're together. But alas, there's the perfect timing. As we're recording, little Bainon arrives on screen.
So sorry.
That's what we call the height of professionalism. Sadaf is away on holiday in Canada and decided actually after my holiday in Canada, I'm just going to stay in Canada and work in Canada for the entire summer. And so that's what you've been doing. So you're working remotely, right?
I am, yes. And I'm loving it.
But we've got that that was perfect. We've got that on film. We've got that on audio. Just go away. As you push your son aside. Yes, we are a professional outfit, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Push to Be More podcast. Maybe that's why you do production rather than the front side of the camera. Because you have young kids.
Maybe I should just stay there. I'll stay in my lane.
No, not at all. It's I love those kind of things, which is why, if you're listening to this, we leave them in because a lot of the, we're going to talk a lot about podcasting, why we do the podcast, what started it, the start of the journey, what's the purpose behind it, why, what are some of the stories that have come out of it. We wanted to share those a little bit. We're going to talk about PodJunction, which is a new podcast we're launching. And sadly, actually, you're going to host. You might want to talk to your kids before you start recording, but that's another story. But one of the questions I get asked a lot, actually, about podcasting is, do you cut out all the ums and ahs? And there's software, you can press a button, it just cuts it all out, just like that. But we deliberately leave all of this stuff in because it's a much more... Well, I think it's just a much more real and authentic conversation. So, yeah, you just met Sadaf Child. So, welcome.
Thank you.
Right, what are we doing today, Miss Producer?
All right. So today we are talking a little bit about some of our behind-the-scenes insights, some of the stuff that some of the lessons we've been learning along the way and where we're up to and what we're heading into. Mm-hmm. As you mentioned, the PodJunction podcast.
Yeah, the PodJunction coming up. Dun, 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 dun. I need that kind of fanfare. Have I got that sound effect? I don't know if I have. I've got this one. It's not really the fanfare that I'm looking for. Yeah, then no, I don't. I have you can't see it, even if you're watching the video. I have this sort of, it's called the Rodecaster. And it's a great little sound desk when you're doing podcasting, and it's got these sound pads on it that you can program, and it comes pre-programmed with some stuff. Nice. And I was kind of hoping that I'd have, I have sort of the fanfare type thing. I must get one and put it on. Anyway, let's carry on.
So actually, before we get into it, Matt, maybe we can talk about the sponsor, Orion Media.
Let's talk about Orion Media. That's a good place to start. Orion Media. If you've been a regular to the Push to Be More podcast, you'll have heard me say at the start of every episode, in fact, all the episodes we've done so far, that Orion Media is the sponsor of the show. Orion Media, if you've not figured out, is our own company. It is a podcasting start that sentence again. It's a podcasting company. We specialize in helping organizations set up and run their own podcast. Why would you want to host your own podcast? Very simply, it is an unbelievable marketing tool. That's been our observation. That's what we've discovered ourselves, both in our own agencies, in my e-com businesses, which we're going to get into some of the stories. But yeah, it's an unbelievable marketing tool. And in all the years, I've come across very few things like podcasting as a medium for networking and building connections with people, meeting new people, having incredible conversations and doing all the things that we know to do to build our business. Works super well if you have high value clients, works super well with, we found it worked really well in our e-com businesses. So it's one of these versatile marketing mediums. And so Aurea Media, we set it up to help entrepreneurs, business leaders set up and host their own successful podcast by doing two things. Number one, helping you launch right, because a lot of people don't want to launch because they don't know what it means. Like, I don't know what I call the podcast. What format should we have? What kind of guests should I get on the show? What kind of stuff should we? Why should I do it? What niche should I go after? There's a whole bunch of questions that people have, and so we do the workshops to help them get that done right. And then we also do the production services, which is what you take care of, right? Right. Tell folks about the production. You know more about the production services than me. I just talk to people all day. I don't do any of the real work.
Yeah. So when Matt's done all the easy work, I'm kidding.
Oh, you're not though. That's the truth. Everyone's going, yeah, you're not kidding at all. We all know it. We all know he's just sat there talking. It's totally fine.
Yeah. So we work hard behind the scenes. There's a team of us who do all the editing, get the sound and the video, everything to be just right, and make sure that we're staying on schedule, making sure the guests are that we're keeping in touch with them, that we're communicating well with them, they know what's happening, and not just kind of get left to just kind of try and figure things out on their own. Mm-hmm. So yeah, there's a lot of things that go on behind the scenes, which even though I'm saying it's, like it's hard work and it's easier to be on camera, it's also quite enjoyable as well. Yeah. If you say so.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan. It used to be when we did our first ever podcast, I did all the production. And it's fair to say that technology is very different now, than when we first started podcasting. So it's a lot easier now than it was. But it takes on average about 8 to 10 hours of production time for an hour episode, doesn't it? And so I'd much rather do other things, which is why, again, when I say in the podcast, I get to do this, I get to talk to people, which is what I love to do.
Yeah.
And you guys take everything else off my plate. It's a genuine statement. It's like, I don't do any of that, which is, it's a beautiful thing, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, because I just want to talk to people. I don't want to do the rest of that sort of stuff. So anyway, that's Aurea Media. So yeah, we've got the launch workshops, which helps you launch, and we've got the production services, which you and the team do a fantastic job with. The hard work, and I just get to talk on podcasts, which is great. So that's Aurea Media. Yeah. And so you've been in the podcasting space for quite some time, haven't you? It's like 2012, 11? 2012, yeah, good guess.
2012, yeah. I'm not great with numbers. Somewhere in that. So I guess maybe we could talk about so you've done Jersey FM, and there's been a few in the middle, and now we're here on Push to Be More, and we're launching PodJunction in a couple months.
Yep.
And so I guess maybe a question, Matt, for you is, what's been the inspiration behind PodJunction? Like, why are we doing that? Why PodJunction?
So if I go right back to the beginning, and it's also the inspiration behind Aurea Media, and why it all started was because you were right. We had this podcast in 2012 called Jersey FM, and Jersey FM was not a local radio station, by the way. We had an e-commerce website called Jersey Beauty Company. It still exists. The company's still there, which is great. I don't run it anymore. That was sold. And the time in 2012, I'll spare you the long, boring story, but basically, we really need to rethink our marketing. Things needed to change quite drastically for us as a company. And to this day, I cannot tell you why or how I decided that we should start a podcast. I'd never done a podcast before. I was interested a little bit, I suppose, in sound engineering. Having done that for a number of years, just at our local church, we had a massive sound desk with 32 channels, and I really enjoyed mixing all the musos together, and it was brilliant. But I suppose I had some kind of vague interest in it. So we bought an 8-channel mixing desk, a little Mackie. I've still got it somewhere. I need to put it out actually because I've got like a shelf in my office of all my original computers, like my Commodore PET, my BBC mic. I'm showing my age now. I should put that sound desk out. But yeah, we bought this sort of 8-track Mackie and then, or 8-channel Mackie, and we set up this podcast, Jersey FM. And there was me. There was a girl called Rach who worked with us at Jersey. She, ironically, now lives on Jersey, the island, the small island off the north coast of France, with her husband and child. What a legend she is. She doesn't work for Jersey anymore, but still good friends. She's awesome. And then there was another lady called Jan, who's also a friend, and we would get like the beauty magazines, and we would just read the articles on the podcast and just tear them to shreds. It was hysterical. We had such a laugh doing this. It was brilliant. And so that was sort of our introduction to podcasting, but we started the podcast without a plan. We had no idea what we were doing. We were making it up as we go along. Ori and Media and their fancy, sort of workshops didn't exist to sort of give us a right steer at the beginning. So we just took a total punt on this thing. And you couldn't track ROI. You could barely track how many people listened to the show. You don't know how many of them went and purchased. I mean, so we didn't know if it was a viable marketing effort until one day when we had this supplier. They weren't a supplier at the time. I really wanted to buy their products to sell them on our website, and we'd been struggling to get that contract. Mm-hmm. And every time we called them up, it was like, there was this brick wall in front of us that we couldn't get through. Just weren't interested in us as a business, weren't interested in supplying us. And so I thought, as a last-ditched attempt, I had this sort of, can I say this? I had a brain fart. That's the only way I know how to describe it. It was just like something triggered in my brain that I cannot take any credit for. But I had this idea, and we called them up and said, listen, I didn't talk to them about selling their products on the site. I just called them up and said, listen, we would love for you to come and share your story on the podcast. Well, everything instantly changed. The CEO's on the phone, chatting to me, would love to do it. What are we going to talk about? I'm like, I don't know, I'm making this up as I go along. And so I didn't say that out loud. I sounded very confident and assured, like we do as CEOs when people ask us difficult questions. And so he came on the show, and we had this conversation. It lasted like an hour and a half. By the end of that 90 minutes, not only had I got to know him in a way that I would never have got to know him in 90 minutes, because it's a podcast. You have amazing questions you can ask on a podcast. 90 minutes, you can ask some serious questions. I don't do podcasts that long now, by the way. But the conversation was great. But importantly, we got the supply contract because of that one episode. Well, that one episode, the profits from that one episode, it was over 100K. I can't remember the exact figure. I just remember counting up and going, man, that one episode netted our company over 100 grand. And that's when I realized, actually, podcasting, yes, I can build a podcast and I can build an audience and I can put stuff out there and hope people will listen. And maybe that's a way to build an audience that ultimately will end up buying from my website. But it became this incredible tool to meet new people and spark meaningful connections. Which is what we say at Ori Media, start meaningful connections type thing. And as a way to introduce yourself to incredible people, I've not come across anything like podcasting. And it was that moment, it was that point where we discovered actually podcasting is something really special. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's an incredible story about that supplier, because I think that the fact that you get that kind of access to people, and that's what podcasting brings, the opportunity it brings to have access to people that you wouldn't normally talk to. Mm-hmm. And then the doors that access opens to opportunities, such as, those profit margins that you were able to create. So that's really cool. Really cool.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's been a remarkable story, and podcasting's enabled us to meet incredible people, start meaningful connections, to build audiences, to build tribes, which is what you expect with podcasting. It's enabled us to become known in industries. It's a bit like becoming an author if you're a podcaster. Your credibility goes up. You become thought of as an industry expert or leader. And again, I think we'll talk about this on the show, some of the stories that have happened, but some of the incredible things that have come out of that. And so, yeah, I love it. I love it as a medium. I love talking to people. I'm one of these crazy people that there are times, aren't there, when we've come down, we've looked at the recording calendar, there's like 8 or 9 podcasts on the calendar. And you're like, holy cow, that's a lot of people to talk to.
Yeah.
And by the end of the day, you're exhausted, but you enjoy every single conversation and something comes out of most of them.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we started Push to Be More. Coming back to your original question, I've now remembered it. We started Push to Be More. I make a good host. I'm not sure I'm such a good guest. But we started Push to Be More because with Orient Media, we were like, well, let's prove to people actually you can grow. We grow our podcast agency through podcasting. That's what we do. We meet some incredible people. And so we were like, well, let's do that. And then PodJunction, the new podcast. In fact, let me do this. Whenever we say PodJunction, I should do this. Where's it gone? There it is. PodJunction. It's playing with the sound effects. So yes, or maybe this one. PodJunction. That actually sounds good. That sounds like I'm at a train station. Ladies and gentlemen, the train now arriving at platform 2 is PodJunction. And so I get like too much phone, too much tech on my desk. So PodJunction we're setting up in response to folks like me who are using podcasting to build their business, right? It's an actual marketing tool. It's a tool we are using intentionally to build businesses. And we're going to talk a lot about on PodJunction, like the how to do it and why it works and so on and so forth. I say we, I mean predominantly you, because you're going to host your first podcast, aren't you, with PodJunction?
I am, yeah, I am. I'm really, really looking forward to it. And because I produce all the podcasts that you record, and being able to talk to so many fantastic people, I'm looking forward to that too.
Yeah, and you'll be great. You'll be great because you'll be good on this side of the camera. It's going to be totally awesome. So I'm going to be involved in that but this is predominantly something that you're driving. But yeah, so Push to Be More is great because it's inspiring stories, and I just love people's stories. Especially CEOs, leaders. I learn a lot about business, learn a lot about how to deal with people, how to deal with challenges and stuff through that. So that's great. And that's what Push to Be More is all about. That's why we called it Push to Be More. But PodJunction is going to be much more the nitty gritty. So if you're interested in podcasting as a marketing tool, then do check out PodJunction. Tell the good, in fact, do check out PodJunction. I'm sorry, that's really loud, isn't it? So that's going to come out. He's going to be listening. It's going to blow your car speakers. When's PodJunction getting launched?
PodJunction is launching mid-September. I believe more specifically, it's the 19th of September, which is a Tuesday. And we're gearing up for that, doing all the preparation in the background now. And really looking forward to that.
Yeah, absolutely. The train now approaching is PodJunction and will be arriving on the 19th of September 2023 at platform 4. I really need to stop fighting about that.
And enjoy the ride.
We found the new tagline. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, we have. So, one of the things that's in my notes here that we need to talk about actually today, because we've mentioned this, how podcasting does more than just build an audience. That's part of it, but actually you can use podcasting to actually connect with meaningful people. There is something which we have, a freebie, isn't there, on the Orient Media website. Now, I appreciate Orient is not the easiest word to spell. A-U-R-I-O-N. It's not O-R-I-O-N. It's not Orion, but Orient. It's actually the Greek word. Do you know what it means?
Crowd.
No. Not even close.
Means tomorrow.
Yes.
Tomorrow.
So we thought we'd call the companies, because we have two sides with Orion. We have our e-commerce side and we have the media side, which is all about podcasting. And so we were like, the Greek word for tomorrow is Orion, which is awesome. And so that's where the name comes from. But it's Aurion. So it's not a straightforward word. But if you find the website, we should probably get an easier URL to direct you to it. There is a freebie on the website called the Kickstart Guide, I think, or the Kickstart Challenge, or something like this. Kick's got the word Kickstart in it. I really should know my own products. And what that is, there's a training. So I do this video. I did a webinar. We've put that webinar on the website where we'll do a training on the process that we use and why this podcasting system works, which you're more than welcome to watch. It's totally free. Watch the training and get the PDF download. Because in that PDF download, there is scripts that you can use in an email. So if you're going, well, will this podcasting thing work for me? In that PDF, we walk you through step by step what to do to test, right? So we give you scripts and everything, which you can obviously adapt. And the process that we would use, you can go and see if you can get like 5 to 10 guests for a show, free. No, just follow the script, just see what happens. And if you can, then you know you've got something that could potentially really work for you in your industry. And that's a freebie product which you can get on the Orion Media website. You will also be able to get it on the PodJunction website when it gets launched, because PodJunction is much easier to spell. But until it's there, head over to orionmedia.com, AURIONmedia.com. Download that freebie. Seriously, try it. See how you get on and see whether this will work for you. You don't need any experience, any knowledge, or any of that kind of background stuff. We don't need to know the podcast name or any of that sort of stuff. We're just wanting to test, is this a good fit for you? Which I think it probably will be, if I'm honest with you. But the proof is in the pudding, right? So just follow that challenge and see if you can get some people who are willing to come on a potential. You're not telling them you've got a podcast and you're lying to them. You said, we've got this potential show coming up. Would love you to be a guest. Would you come on there? And I bet you a whole bunch of people will say yes, and you'll be amazed. So just take that challenge and see how you get on with that. It's it's really well put together. I say that because I wrote it. No, not at all. But it is well put together. And have a look at it. Let us know what you think. We'd love to get your thoughts on it, actually. But yeah, if you want to know more about this podcasting, whether it's going to work for you, seriously try the freebie. It's which is why we wanted to make it free, because we think it could probably be a good test for you. But yeah,
I didn't write it, and I think it's a great resource, so definitely check it out.
That's okay. Right, I think that's probably enough chatter for today. We're keeping these episodes shorter. Like I say, throughout the month of August, or Sadaf said, we're going to do these slightly different episodes. We're going to share some stories, share some stuff coming out. I hope you enjoy them. Do stay connected with us. Do subscribe to the podcast, wherever you get your podcasts from, because, we've got loads of episodes. Don't want you to mix any of them. Remember, keep pushing to be more. And like I always say at the end of every podcast, if no one has told you yet today, dear listener, you're awesome. Yes, you are. Oh, no, that's the wrong button. You're awesome. There you go. Don't watch the video. I messed that up. You're awesome. Yes, you are. Created awesome. It's just the burden you have to bear. Sadaf's got to bear it, I've got to bear it, and you have got to bear it too. So that's it from me. That's it from Sadaf. Have a fantastic week. Let me play the music. What a plonker. I really need to up my production skills here. So, yes, have a fantastic August. Have a fantastic week. We'll see you next week. That's it from us. Sadaf, say tra.
Bye.
Bye for now.